We've seen parts of the media reporting on Israel's rescue operation, rescuing those 4 hostages last week. Presumably, in a sane world, you would expect them to report on it with a tone of relief and joy for the hostages. But there seems to be, in some parts of the reporting, and I guess maybe we shouldn't be surprised anymore, it was flooded with criticism of Israel and the way she carried out the operation. I guess we shouldn't really be surprised anymore. Well, I want you to watch Ben Shapiro unpacking the media reporting, because it's important that we debunk the nonsense.
Okay, so why am I so exercised about this?
Oh, I'm just going to get it onto normal speed for you. There we go.
Because the left reacted to this operation as though Israel had done something morally blameworthy in saving its own hostages. There are a couple premises that it has used here. One is that, once again, the lie that Israel has not been meticulous in its use of military force, which is just stupid and insane and obviously factually wrong. Then there is the weird premise that it is up to Israel to somehow leave the hostages in the hands of terrorists if too many people on the other side are going to die. No country worth its salt, no country is going to treat its own citizens the same way that it treats citizens of another country, particularly a hostile enemy country holding hostages. That's nuts. People who are suggesting that Israel somehow should have foregone rescuing its hostages because too many Palestinian civilians might be caught in the crossfire because of Hamas are out of their minds or lying to you. Many of them are the same people who full on make excuses for Hamas breaking into Israel and for no reason at all slaughtering 1,200 Israelis, including a vast majority of those being civilians in civilian areas, grandmothers and babies. Okay, so here is the reaction. So here are some of the headline screen grabs. You don't hate your legacy media enough. Let me just put it that way. Your legacy media trash. And I'm using the word trash a lot today, but it's because there's a lot of trash today. So the New York Times headline, quote, Israel's euphoria over hostage rescue may be fleeting. The operation conducted by Israel's military to free 4 hostages resulted in a high death toll among Palestinians and has not resolved the challenges facing the Israeli government. Okay, and a hammer isn't a screwdriver. Like, I didn't realize that rescuing hostages was supposed to solve every internal division in the state of Israel. Divisions that long predated any of this, which is why you had mass movements in the streets with regard to judicial reform, if you'll recall, it's a while ago, before October 7th. Also, Israel's euphoria is supposed to be fleeting for saving its hostages because too many Palestinians died in the operation? I think not. That's one New York Times headline. Then there's a second New York Times headline. The bombing was unimaginably intense. Gazans recall the Israeli raid that left scores dead and wounded. Wow. Oh, you know, the real victims when you kidnap people and then people come to rescue those people is you. If you're the kidnapper and the people surrounding the kidnappers who know that the people who are kidnapped are there, and let's be real about this, the idea that people in the surrounding area had no clue that these hostages were being held there is a lie. You know how we know that? Because the Israelis knew. If the Israelis knew, who else do you think knew in the area? Quite a few people probably knew in the area. Okay, that is another headline. And then you have this from the Washington Post. The Washington Post has basically just become a love letter to Hamas at this point. Quote, inside Israel's hostage rescue, secret plans and a deadly wall of fire. This headcount is based on more than a dozen interviews with former and current Israeli military officials, family members of hostages, and Palestinian eyewitnesses. A deadly wall, secret plans and a deadly wall of fire. Oh man, that's terrible. That sounds truly terrible.
Yeah, Ben is completely right, and I'm really grateful to him for making these points. We have to understand, for those who don't, for those who haven't yet been paying attention, that the standards to which Israel is expected to adhere to, the expectations that they're expected to stick to when no other nation in the world would react this way or would have these kind of moral standards if their people were under attack, if their people were taken hostage. They're so ridiculous that they frankly should be dismissed. And that needs to be the approach moving forward. I want to show you this quote that we posted. This was from Lee Kern, who said, if the Jews did what the world tells them to, there would be no Jews. And of course, that is exactly right. The standards are ridiculous. So the approach has to be moving forward. Don't get frustrated by this nonsense. Don't get wound up by it. If people want to listen, you want to explain, great. But those who are just talking the most ridiculous moral tunes, pseudo-moral tunes should be dismissed and ignored, because the attempt is simply to undermine, to shame Israel, to pressure them even further. And the way you act to bullies towards them is not to indulge them. That is the way we are taught in the playground, is the way that you go about that. It's just bullying at this point. We know that they would absolutely not have these kinds of moral demands or critiques if the shoe was on the other foot. Indeed, we see that they're prepared to give all kinds of excuses to the other side. We see that there's a preparedness to say, well, what happened on October 7th didn't occur in a vacuum, to excuse what happened, to say that really this is really all to do with Israel, it's Israel's fault. No, it's not. The hatred, the determination to want to get rid of the Jews among the Arab population in the region and the leadership existed prior to Israel. In fact, the hostility to the Jews' existence is an ancient hatred. This is nothing new. And so part of the reason we're told that we're treated differently is because the world actually senses that we are different. And the more that we try to fit in and say that and just insist that we should be treated like everyone else, the more we're going to see this kind of stuff. So yes, on the one hand, we shouldn't be intimidated by these nonsense critiques. On the other hand, Israel should appreciate why it is that she's being treated differently. And the reason is because the world knows deep down that Israel is different. But different can be a good thing. We're treated different. We're held to different standards. That could be a bad thing. Or we're treated different. We're treated as special, as unique. That could be a good thing. Being different, having a unique role in the world, can be a very good thing. The question is, what is our role? What is our difference? Our difference is the Jewish people were charged by God, chosen by God. We didn't do it. We didn't do the choosing, but he chose us at Mount Sinai to be his voice to the world, to be his teachers in the world, in the global morality conversation. And so a teacher that tries to fit in and be like all the students, they're just going to bully the teacher. They're going to walk all over the teacher. So instead, the teacher should say, okay, I'm not going to take your bullying. I'm not going to indulge them. Instead, I'm going to command order in the classroom. And I'm going to be clear on who I am. I'm not going to try and fit in. I'm not going to deny who I am. I'm going to be clear in taking control, taking the leadership of this classroom. And that's what the Jewish people were charged to do. And that has to be our approach moving forward. It really is the only way. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.